fresh out the box.
Fresh California plums.
Welcome to another episode of Fresh Film Fridays, the podcast where two dudes pick the newest films streaming or in theaters and discuss them. Today we are talking about 2022's Exposure 36, which was directed by Mauro. And actually, this is a very special episode because we have the producer and one of the actors from the film, Montgomery Mauro, as our guest today. So I am your co-host, Alec.
Oh, I'm Eric. Just kidding, it's Justin. And thanks for joining us, Monty.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we love doing films where we can actually talk to either the writer, the producer, the director, anything. And this is cool because you produced this film, you acted in this film, and you and your brother have this amazing production company, No Tomorrow Productions, and you guys started that, why don't you tell me, Monty? Why don't you tell me?
Yeah, we started in 2014, really just based off of meeting a young independent filmmaker, and I became really good friends with him, and I was like, what advice do you have? And he was essentially like, go out and make your own stuff. Like, don't wait for anybody, just go make. So that was really the impetus for that.
Yeah, I loved, because, you and I have worked on projects in the past back in New York and everything, but seeing that logo, the N2M, like right in front and center, like that was really cool, even for me, so I can't even imagine how that must have felt for you guys to see that.
Yeah, it feels really good, and I do want to shout out you playing Dunderson in the show, because I still laugh so hard watching that scene with the gauze, and I just want people to go watch that also.
Yeah, well, the acting can only be as good as the writing, so.
Well, I appreciate that.
So, anyways, Justin, you and I just watched this movie for the first time last night, and obviously we're going to get into the plot, we're going to get into all that, but I'm just obviously very interested in, like, how this all came to fruition, what were the steps that got it all started. So, I don't know, Monty, if you want to walk us through, like, how did this become what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but I think Mackenzie and I, being such avid film buffs, and he's kind of a crazy writer. He's got a bunch of screenplays that he's written, and we knew that after making the web series and a bunch of short films that a feature film was the next thing. We realized that filmmakers are taken seriously when they're making like a product that can be sold. And we both want to make feature films. So we looked at the scripts that he had written, and Exposure 36 seemed like the one that was the most doable with like a lower budget. And that just really started the whole, crazy train. I mean, went from the first draft to today, it's been about 7 years, Wow. But obviously it was sitting in his drawer for a couple of years before we really started to, talk about getting it made in, 2018, when we said, let's do this, let's embark on this journey.
Wow, so you guys started that long ago. 2018 was when it finally, the ball started rolling? I love live events, but I hate buying tickets. The hidden fees suck, and coordinating with friends is a nightmare. I always end up fronting a bunch of money and then chasing down my friends to get reimbursed. And if they flake, I'm stuck with the whole bill. But then I discovered Fanimal. Fanimal has tickets to everything, and there are no fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Not only are the prices transparent, but they're almost always lower than anywhere else I look. And for any hot tickets, like Lollapalooza, or a Dodgers game, or a weekend concert, Fanimal is always the cheapest option. Nobody goes to live events alone, so why buy tickets alone? Fanimal's patented group purchase makes it easy. First, you set a minimum size for your group, and choose the number of tickets you want to pay for yourself. Then you invite friends. When the minimum size is met, everyone gets charged and receives their tickets. If the minimum size isn't reached in time, nobody gets charged. You don't commit until your friends do. And Fanimal has amazing customer service. Check out their hundreds of 5-star reviews. The next time you need tickets, go to Fanimal.com or download the Fanimal app and sign up with code HORROR for $20 of credit towards your first purchase. Check out Fanimal and experience more.
Yeah, I think at that point we were ready to do something big. We made a bunch of short films, and we were like, let's go for it. Let's make the feature, it's time.
Yeah, no, because I know you guys have been working on shorts for years, and just in case anybody doesn't know, the director and writer of this film, Mackenzie, is Montgomery's brother. So it's a brother duo, which I love. It's like the Duplass brothers or anything like that. It's nice to see, or the Coens. It's good to see bros get along so well. I don't get along with my brother that well, so it's nice. But Justin, I don't know. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, bold of you to assume that I watched it last night. I watched it today, actually.
My apologies.
And second of all, you forgot to mention the Wachowski brothers.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay, my bad.
I liked it. I always go in and I don't know what to expect, especially with indie films. I knew nothing about this. Alec just said one of his buddies made a film, and I was like, awesome. I always like to talk to people who make films because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are writing stuff for fun or want to make short films or something and just have literally no clue. And it's cool to get some insight from people who have actually done it.
Yeah, and the same thing, I knew nothing about this movie. I know you'd been promoting it, but I didn't read any descriptions. I just went in completely blind, and dude, I gotta say, you guys killed it. Right from the beginning, like the music, the way it was shot, just the acting, every single thing, I was like, these guys are really making steps in the right direction, and it's just clear to see with every project how much you guys improve, and this is your first feature, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. First feature, first big giant project. And I'm glad to hear how well the marketing's working.
Well, wait, did you guys promote it and how much stuff?
No, I mean, it's Instagram, Facebook, we didn't necessarily hire a team or anything, so no, I was just making a joke. But I mean, about it, so that's exciting. And obviously, when you're marketing your film, you feel a little self-conscious about like, am I posting too much about this? Am I doing that? But obviously we put in our blood, sweat, and tears. So, there's a piece of it where it's like, you got to kind of be savage about it and have no remorse because, I mean, you guys know with the podcast, like you got to push it out. You got to get people to listen. So I'm glad to see that. I mean, people who are following are taking note and seeing the images. But it's also exciting to hear people going in with no expectations too, which is a cool perspective to get.
Yeah, I'm a little marketing whore on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Monty, one thing I did like, which no movie came to mind when I tried to think of it, is usually when you watch like a world's coming to the end or apocalyptic type movie, it's post-apocalypse, like something has happened and it's about the survivors. But this was leading up to the events, and it was interesting to see how everyone was reacting and, kind of coming to terms with it, especially in a big city like New York, where Cam kept mentioning this is the worst place to be.
Yeah, and that was something we really wanted to play with. I mean, Mackenzie really created this out of the struggle of like being an artist in New York and struggling with, what do I do? And nobody's paying attention to me, and I don't know which direction to go in. And that's obviously where Cam, the main character's struggle, played brilliantly by Charles Oda. We were so lucky to have him. But I think Mackenzie and I think in kind of a sci-fi lane, and we like to get weird with stuff. Not always sci-fi, but that's obviously where we went with this, is like a sci-fi neo-noir thriller. And so I think creating on the backdrop of like the world ending, I think we're really leaning into that feeling of, sometimes it does feel like the world is ending. I mean, when you're reading news and stuff's happening all around us and you feel like you can't escape from it because we're inundated on social media, et cetera, we all know this path. It's like mix that with trying to be an artist in like a huge city like New York. It's like constantly you feel like the weight of that and the uncertainty. So it felt like taking those feelings and putting them in a certain environment and setting, like the end of the world, felt like the perfect place to put that.
Well, while we're on the subject of the setting in the end of the world in New York, I gotta ask, how did you guys get some of those shots? Like especially right in front of Grand Central, and I think there's a few Times Square shots where there was like no cars. So how did you guys get those?
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about shooting in New York City is, I mean, LA is a pain in the butt with permits and stuff, but New York, as long as you're not like setting down tripods or doing anything crazy, if you have a camera on the shoulder, like you can shoot kind of anywhere you want. I mean, obviously there's certain things you want to be careful of when you go to sell the film in terms of, do you have the rights to use XYZ? But we kind of just did our thing. I think the Grand Central shot, we got up really early, like right when Grand Central opened, and we went and there were like 5 people there. And actually the people were comped out in post. So there actually were a handful of people standing there. And we cut them out.
Wow.
But our visual effects guy did a great job, which I want to shout out to him, and his name's not coming to my brain, so I feel like a terrible person. So we can add that in a minute. But that was really fun. And one thing we were worried about was shooting in July. We shot in July of 2019 in New York City. So I was really worried about, you know, people are going to be walking around. Like if there's ever a time in New York where it's super busy, it's July, you know, in New York City. So that was something we were really worried about, but we were able to just find places where, you know, we'd find a corner over here where no one was, or we'd kind of steal the shot and calm people out like we did in Grand Central. But the silver lining of the pandemic happening was people weren't leaving their houses. So in the middle of 2020, when things were, you know, maybe looking a little calmer, my brother and I were talking. We're like, we need to just grab a camera, go out in the street, shoot up Fifth Avenue. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Film up Fifth Avenue, I should say.
There you go.
Because that was a bad choice of words. And just get some more B-roll. And that's what, because we already had the film edited at that point, but throwing in those little pieces of B-roll, like, oh my God, it just made the setting really stick. And we were just, I mean, obviously that was the silver lining of a worldwide pandemic and making the film when we did.
I really thought you guys would have written this film during the pandemic, so it's really cool to know that like the idea wasn't inspired by, you know, the actual quote-unquote end of the world. So, but that's awesome. You were able to get the B shots, take advantage of the bad situation, I guess. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that, I feel like that's just like the epitome, you know, microcosm of like guerrilla filmmaking. You know, you got to just use what you can when there's a moment to use it.
No, and it was awesome. Like, you know, living in New York for all those years and then looking at those landmarks, I was like, how the hell? And I'm like imagining you guys like, hey, wait, just like stopping people. Like, can you just give us 2 seconds? But that's awesome. You guys were able to get that, you know, during the pandemic. I need to give a huge shout out to the actors. Like, everybody was fantastic in this movie. I do have to say, I really loved Nick. And I've worked with him before, and I want to know, like, how do you guys know each other?
Nick Smithson and I, who played Nick in the film, we went to college at Charleston together. So we did some plays together, and that's how we met. We did a play, The Physicist, and he's a couple years older than me. So I like looked up to him because he was playing like a lead role, and I thought he was a genius, you know. And he is a genius because he's one of those actors that such a pleasure to work with, because he comes to set with all these ideas and he's ready to talk about it and he has questions and he's like, so I've been thinking about the character all night and I think I could try this. And it's like, he never like takes away from the writing. He's always adding to it and just building this character. And he's just such a pleasure to work with. He's a really great actor and I love working with him. That's why I'm always putting him in stuff.
Yeah, just watching him this time, I didn't know he was in it, and then seeing him, I was like, damn, Nick is really good at whatever role he slips into. And Justin, I know you're a fan of Jason Lee, but I wanted to ask if Nick reminded you of Jason Lee at all, the actor.
I didn't think about it. I was just wondering, like, if some of his lines were improv, like at the end when he called Cam a different name, like while talking to him, he was like, "Okay, Cam." And then his next sentence was, I think he said Sam and then Dan. And I was like, this is
No. That's Monty. That's Ed.
Oh, wait, who are you talking about then?
I'm talking about Nick, who gets captured.
Nick.
Yeah.
Nick. Okay, well, Monty, that was very funny.
Thanks.
What did I think about Nick?
No, never mind. There's an actor, Jason Lee, who's the guy from My Name is Earl, and Nick has always reminded me of him. And you being a Jason
I didn't get
Lee
that.
Okay.
I didn't get that at all.
All right. Well, anyways, on to Monty, though. You playing Ed, knowing you, I was like, this is amazing. And I wanted to know, like, did you come up with that character? Did Mackenzie just think of you when he wrote that? Did he think that you could play it? Like, how did that all happen?
Yeah, Ed, the character, has been in it, I think, since the first draft that I read. And I think Mackenzie was really excited for me to play that character. I know he views me as a character actor, which is something that I obviously find very exciting. So I'm always excited to see kind of what parts he wants me to play when he hands me a script. And I love doing that. I feel like I love to just fall into something and really make it my own and find this character. And that's just really fun for me. But the funny thing about the getting the names wrong, Mackenzie had been introduced to some guy like 100 times. And the guy would get his name wrong all the time. He'd either forget or he'd call him like Chris or something. And Mackenzie's like, no, that's not my name. So that, just like us joking about that stuff, kind of made it into the film. And that kind of became part of Ed's character, of just not purposefully, but just being so out there and selfish that he doesn't even remember this guy's name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I thought you did a great job, and I also, obviously, the lead actor, you had mentioned him earlier. Oh my gosh, what is his name?
Charles.
Yeah, where did you guys find him? I mean, same thing, fantastic actor.
So Finding Charles is a great story of that I always think about in terms of like the universe is going to help you out as long as you keep pushing forward. So we actually had an actor signed up. We loved him. We were ready to go with him. And then, because of different reasons, personal, I think career-wise, he decided he didn't want to do the film. And then he said, but I do know someone that I would recommend to do it. And it was Charles. And Charles came in, we did a reading with him, and he was just amazing. I mean, obviously you see in the film just how subtle, thoughtful he is, complex. And I mean, talk about professional actors. Like we had, it was about a 14-day shoot and we had some days off in between, but Charles would come in, all of his lines memorized, no question. I mean, he had questions, but like no questions in terms of, is this guy going to be ready or what? He just jumped right in, was so professional, so courteous and kind on set. And, we put him through the ringer. We're staying up late. We're shooting here. We're doing things where he's got to move a lot. We're taking multiple takes. We're moving quickly because we're a low budget crew, low budget film. And he was there for it. He really was a great person to have in the, in that chair and being the lead of the film. And then obviously, thankfully, his performance really shines through in the film.
No, he was absolutely, as you said, like subtle, like very, you just could sense so much emotion coming from him, even when he wasn't talking. He had such an expressive face. And earlier you'd said it, or, you guys have written, or your brother written this as a neo-noir. And one of the films that I did think of, with the exception of the synths and all that stuff in the future, was Blade Runner. It did kind of remind me of the way that it moved and the lighting and just like the sorrow that just seemed like it was like impending on everybody. But yeah, dude, I really enjoyed this movie.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge compliment. Blade Runner is an amazing film and had a lot of influence on us. I mean, Mackenzie and I, he's my older brother. So when we were younger, he would like introduce me to films that I would have never heard of had it not been for him and our other brother, Max. And they're 80s kids and I'm a 90 kid. So, it's like just getting a little bit of that perspective there. So yeah, and I mean, speaking of Blade Runner, I do want to give a shout out to Perry Kroll, who is our visual effects guy. And sorry for that ding, my brother's texting me. But yeah, so I just wanted to shout out to Perry Kroll because I didn't have his name on my tongue before. But yeah, thanks for that compliment on Blade Runner. That is really nice to hear.
Yeah, the special effects were great, obviously, with the eyes. That was cool, the way they lit up and everything like that, like White Walkers from Game of Thrones or whatever. Yeah, I mean, they never really, I guess in the beginning, the opening crawl, it does say, like, war, famine, I can't remember what the other one was, but did Mackenzie, or do you even know, was there ever, like, a definitive, this is what's going on, or was it just kind of, like, left vague intentionally?
Definitely left vague intentionally, but I will say that it was something that we had talked about a lot, about what do we want to do, and I think it really came up to that idea of, in life, we don't know what's going to happen. And so we wanted to play around with that. I always kind of pitch the film as like, when you think about the Mayan calendars and they say on this day, the world is going to end. And it's like, we're getting to that date and stuff starts happening. So like when you hear the radio host doing the kind of voiceover in the background, he's talking about like flights are delayed and there's floods and hurricanes. It's like, for the first time in history, we have this date that people are kind of rolling their eyes at. But at the same time, as we get closer and closer, the world is kind of slowly falling apart. And so we played around with that idea because it's like some ancient civilization decided the world was going to end on this day. And then it's kind of like, wait, is this going to happen? And there's no like answer. There's no one thing you can point to. So that was kind of what we were playing around with, that uncertainty as well.
Yeah. But I did want to, actually, Justin, do you have any questions? I feel like I'm hogging all this.
No, I'm letting you have your fun. Speaking of movie I don't know why, but there was this one scene where the camera like panned down, like I think a brick building, and for some reason it reminded me of the Warriors. Maybe that was just me, but I sensed some character development within Cam. Like, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but in the beginning, he went into that apartment building, and instead of helping the woman while the robber was stealing her purse, he just took a picture. And like I caught the sense that maybe he didn't want to get involved, but by the end of the movie, he's like fighting off these like gangster bodyguard dudes and like going all out helping Nick's sister when he like really didn't need to. And I don't know if that was like in the script meant to be done, or I just like looked into that too much.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bard's Clothing. The days of "Hi, my name is" are over. We live in a virtual world, and our images are being shared on social media and professional pages every day. With over 1,000 fabrics to choose from, Bard's Clothing is here to tell your story through clothing. Make sure the image you want people to have of you is the one you're sending, because by the time you get face-to-face, their minds might already be made up. Quality clothing all made here in America. Head on over to www.bardsclothing.com or follow them on Instagram @bardsclothing.
No, you're spot on. I mean, when you're writing a film, thinking about how the character is going to change throughout the film and what's going to affect them and the decisions they're going to make are huge. And yeah, I mean, I love that you caught that, because that's exactly what it was. He was aloof. He was resulting to just taking pills and wanting to isolate himself while the world is ending, which I think we can all kind of relate to. I don't want to do anything and I don't want to talk to anybody. But of course, as guilt and responsibility and, I think deep down Cam is a good person who's just gone really far off his path. So obviously the events led him to finding his morality and, wanting to help the people around him, even though the expectation is that, in a couple of days, we might not even be here, but, essentially going out as a good person. Yeah. I mean, that you hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, thanks. And a couple of things I noticed was some of the drugs he was selling, they were in the negative photo little like tins you would get from like CVS. You know what I mean? Like the little black thing with the gray top. The pills were in those cans. And then he mentioned at the end that he was selling the drugs to help people feel numb, to like help them with the impending doom. And I found that interesting because, he kept talking about how he has customers, he needs to make money. And it sounded like he was really concerned with, trying to make as much money as possible, which money probably wouldn't have any value in a couple days if the world was ending. So then like by the end of the movie, I kind of questioned it, where was he bad necessarily for selling drugs, or was he doing a good thing because he figured everyone was going to die and he wanted them to like be calm and enjoy their last couple days?
Right. I mean, I think it's that question of, if you knew the world was going to end, what would you do? Would you like spend time with your family? Would you go to Vegas and do crazy stuff? Would you resort to doing all the things that you wish you hadn't done? I think there's a lot of questions there when you feel like, is my time up? So I feel like a lot of the different characters kind of resort to having that answer within themselves. I know for Ed, my character, he wants control. He doesn't want to feel like anyone's telling him that the world is going to end and his life is over. He wants to make that decision. So that's a goal for him. And I think Cam is so separated from the reality of it because, he's getting high on his own supply. And so he's kind of with them of being like, I just want to be numb at this point. Mm-hmm. And also, I just want to go back and mention the woman in the staircase, Jessica DeMooney, who's an amazing actress also, and a lovely person, if I do say so myself.
I was going to say, dude, all right, so that's Monty's longtime girlfriend and collaborator. I mean, you guys have done a lot together. But, dude, I knew it was her from even her yell going up the stairs. I was like, this is Jess. Like, it's so, like, literally, even from her scream, like, I knew, which is weird that I could sense it. But anyways.
Yeah, what are you not telling me?
I thought, I thought she was going to have a huge part in this movie, though, because she's the first person that pops up on IMDb. So I was like, oh, I bet Jess is like the lead in this. And I was surprised and disappointed that she wasn't in more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we really considered Jess for the lead, but we just felt like she is a little too mature for the part. And we were looking for someone, with a little more like naivete and, Jess is really smart and plays a tough character, and Katie's definitely a tough character, but I think we all felt like we wanted to look around. And obviously we got Jennifer Lee Whitehead, who did a great job. That was her first film.
Oh, wow.
And we were really lucky to have her. She was able to keep up with Charles and keep up with the production schedule. And we were really happy to have her in the film for that.
Yeah, she was fantastic as well. And the last person I have to get a major call out to is Chuck McMahon, the guy that played Curry. Dude, he had such an intimidating face. I need to know everything about this guy.
Yeah, Chuck, we kind of just found through putting out casting calls. I think the character of Curry was someone that we were looking at like, oh, we could get an actor to come in for a day. Let's find a guy who's done TV for years and wants to do a film, and it's not going to be tough on his schedule. And I mean, similar to us finding Charles, like we couldn't find someone who could fill it. We were talking to a few actors and their schedules would change, or, just things would happen. So Chuck was the guy that we were like, what happened in his audition that was amazing is he took off his belt and slammed it on the table in front of all of us. And we were like, oh my God, and then he left. We all looked at each other. We were like, this guy has to play Curry. And it was awesome.
I don't know why, but when I first saw the actor David Nash, the guy with the ponytail, the bad guy, he kind of looked like Meatloaf.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was like, did they get Meatloaf for this?
I thought the same thing. I was like, his final acting performance.
I'm glad that wasn't just me, because it definitely took like 3 times where I was like, I legitimately don't know if that's Meatloaf.
That's awesome. I mean, he was great too. And James Rich, who played Dopey. So we have Big Man and Dopey, and them together. I mean, they're hilarious. And David Nash is this huge guy, physically intimidating, but he's a sweetheart and he's like funny. And all of his improv was about like feeding the cat. And it was just like amazing of how they would banter off each other. And James Rich is a hilarious actor. And I've done some off-Broadway shows with him, and I mean, just them two together, it's like we unlocked something. We were talking about we should make a short film with them two, trying to hide a body or something, because their like chemistry was amazing.
Yeah, no, they were really funny. So I just have, I guess before we start to wrap up here, I had 2 questions for you. So one, I wanted to ask you, what was like the hardest day of filming for the entire project, if you could pick one?
The hardest day of filming, I would say it was the cafe scene. It was all at night. And I mean, we were really lucky with locations, and I had come off of a job where I was doing marketing in Gowanus, Brooklyn, and I had to speak to owners of small businesses around. So I was able to reach out to them, and I'm on a first name basis with some of these people. So we were able to get those locations. And that was Tahini Grill in Gowanus. And those guys are so sweet, the nicest guys in the world. And they let us use their space overnight. Someone was there, they gave us the key, but that was a tough one. I mean, everyone knows overnight shoots are really hard, but the next day or in the morning, the next day when you're packing up and you're just like, oh my God, we just did that. That was definitely a really tough experience. And it's like, makes me think I would never do a film that's like only shot at night, although I have written a script like that. But it was an experience for sure.
All right. And then I guess my final question, then Justin, if you have anything. So what's the future for No Tomorrow for you, Mackenzie, Jess, everybody?
Yeah, thanks for asking. We are actually talking about our next film. We've, got North American distribution for Exposure 36. We got foreign. We just signed those contracts, gave them everything. So we are now on to that next part of the journey. It's called Misfit Love. So keep a lookout for that. I mean, that could change, but right now that's what it's called. And so, yeah, we got to, start raising money, start packaging that together, and hopefully go bigger and better on the next one.
That's awesome, man. Well, seriously, congratulations on this. Congratulations on the future of this film, obviously signing all of these distribution deals. That's going to be huge. And congratulations to you and to Mackenzie, to the entire production company and cast and crew. Justin, do you have any last-minute questions for Montgomery?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, and I enjoyed it.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and I really appreciate you watching the film and talking to me about it tonight.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, man. Well, anything that you or Mackenzie or, anything you do in the future, let us know. We'd love to have you guys on and, pick your brains about the production.
Sounds good. Love to be here.
All right, cool. Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening in. If you haven't had a chance yet, we released our episode on VHS last week, and then we're going to release our episode on Friday the 13th, Part 2, and you can check those out on Monday. Otherwise, check out Exposure 36. That is streaming right now on Amazon Prime. You can rent that. It is fantastic. You got to check it out. And is there anywhere that these guys can find any of your other stuff, Montgomery?
So we do have a Vimeo account under No Tomorrow Productions, and that stuff you can watch for free. And we also have the show on YouTube, which is also under the No Tomorrow Productions channel. And yeah, but definitely, go to Amazon Prime, watch the film. Let us know what you think. Give us reviews, because that's definitely helpful for us, too.
Hell yeah. Well, all right, everybody, thank you very much, and we'll see you all next week with something fresh.